Hi, here's Gabriel from GB Translation again. In the last video I introduced to you our Suti tool, which is our translation tool for Word documents that we have designed for linguists and non-linguists and anyone who needs translations regularly. So today what we're going to go into is how actually translation memories are used in Suti. So we want to also compare if we, for example, open something like SmartCut and compare that to how the same flow works in our tool compared to the SmartCut tool, for example, we will be making an interesting comparison. So let's hop in right away. What we're going to do is we're going to run a document, which is a bank letter that we've received from an actual client, but we've made it anonymous. So this letter, we have already a translation memory to go with it, or rather to use for it. If we look into the dashboard here, we can see the saved projects. Like I explained the last time, we are going to do away with the complex logic of translation memories and their TMX files and all that stuff. We believe that kind of belongs in the 1980s and the 1990s. If you have a project, for example, if you have a project on SmartCut or Trados or any of these programs, then you have usually translation memories specified somewhere in the settings. As you can see, if we go, for example, into a SmartCut, there's a lot going on. It's a ton of different QA check repetitions and all that stuff, statistics, and you have here you can use different language translation memories. We have simplified all that, and we have basically had a conversation about this. And what we've come up with is we've just made a system where a project basically equals a translation memory. So once you run a document, it will then create an own project that has its own translation memory, and that's about it. We do have the possibility for people who come from legacy tools, as we now call them, to import and export, to import TMX files, and you can import and export our own Suti archives if we wanted to use them across different accounts, or perhaps reuse. That's also a solution if we have two documents, two different projects. We need to migrate from one project to another, but we want to make it less project-based and more intuitive, where you can just throw in a document and just run it. And that's what really we're trying to do here. So if we go to the workspace, we can drop our document, or we can pick it from a file picker, and we can just put it in. What we've got here is a bank letter. It's a bank confirmation letter for a Hungarian company, which is something we work with a lot. And we want to choose the language. I'm going to show you a few little tricks. So you could go Hungarian. Anything that's not in a list, you can just type it in, and even you can make it a little bit more specific. So you could just say, UK English, for example. And then you can use that. And you'll get a translation that's more for the UK. Or you can say German for Switzerland. So it's free form basically, but if we want to reuse our translation memories, we do need to have the exact same terminology for the languages. Okay. What we're going to do is then, what is this document about? Like I shown you the last time, we have this beautiful playbook page, which is basically all our saved prompts and instructions. And we'll see if we have anything suitable for this bank confirmation letter. We have Romanian invoices, electricity bills, bank statements used for address verification. It's a bank letter. We could write a bank confirmation, account confirmation letter, or we could reuse our saved prompt here, called a bank statement from Hungary. We can just say a bank account confirmation letter. When we update this prompt, we then have this little coloring here, and this allows us to either save this as a new prompt or update the existing one. I'm going to save this as a new prompt, as we have these type of documents often. When we then have this, where should I look for inspiration? If you're a pro translator, Don't you wish you could teach Trados or SmartCut exactly how to translate things the way that you translate them? Well, the good news is you can do this here. Okay, so you have research directives. You could tell the translator to go and search on certain websites, to consult certain glossaries that you have, give them links to look at, and all this kind of stuff. What we have here, actually, I think we've got a few here. Where should I look for inspiration? And this is a whole paragraph, as you can see, that says check the structure and look of these typical bank statements in Hungary. Then check what these would look like in the UK, what terms they use, and what would be an appropriate translation. So what you're going to basically do is you're going to talk to the Suti system as if you had a junior translator next to you, and just tell them, look, before you get going with this, I want you to look up this and that. Okay, so we basically have created a system that acts as if it was you, leaving you to only check the final result, and in some cases very briefly. For style preferences, you've got a few. You could, for example, I've got one here from real estate reports, where I said fitting for a real estate report without being too long-winded, and as this will make the sentences longer, because we had problems with the formatting. But for this kind of document, I just will leave that empty, as the system, knowing what kind of letter it is, and already with the instructions, will probably know how to best translate it. And then we have expert instructions, and let me see if we've got some interesting ones in our playbook already saved. You could, as a sworn translator, put your whole knowledge in there, everything that you know, everything that needs to be observed when doing certificate translations, or you could put all the instructions you have from a client in there and keep them in the style guidelines in the specific instructions box here, and you can work on these specific instructions also by adding them with the plus sign here, and you can mix and match them, you can reorder them, you can add a name for them, and all this kind of stuff. So if we now go back, we're just going to leave what we've got here. Use the date format in this format DDMM with the slashes. Do not translate job titles. We could also, actually we do want to translate job titles. Do not translate company names and suffixes. This is important for address verification here. Do not translate street names. But this may depend on the kind of project that you have. And now we've got this here. This is the key where it says reuse translation. Select the previous translation to reuse its terminology and style. This is basically where we get to pick one of the projects here and say, this new translation that I'm making, I want it added to this Hungary company registration. If we click into that, we have then access to all the previous files that we've worked on within this project. But the project here is created automatically as you run documents, instead of having to deal with a complicated project configuration. Let us just, for the fun of it, look at the project configuration here in SmartCut and just appreciate the sheer number of, like here it says settings, and then there's a little gear icon that says settings, and what's even going on there. We don't need any of that because we've moved on from the 1990s and we're running this in a much more friendly and organic way now. Okay, so you just pick your previous project and you add the new document into it. Once we have the translations for this new document finished, we also want that added to the existing project. So you can use an existing project either as a template, or you can add your translation to this. The last field that I've already showed you last time, was you could drop a reference file here. If it was your first translation for this client and they already had, say, a technical manual or something that they have from the past that's already in the target language, you can drop it here and the system will use it as an example. You'll take terminology from there, it'll use the style to make sure the new translations are similar to the old translations. So now this is good that it's taking a little while so I can show you. it says hang tight, reading your documents. So it's reading your documents, doing some research, and it's showing you right here at the bottom that it's actually looking right now at certain pages like Hungarian banks. This is actually probably the bank from the document that it's extracted, and it's actually doing some research now to see how these documents are usually translated. Meanwhile, have a sip from our coffee here. And for longer documents, this can take a while, but it's worth it because all the research is being done for you. Now a glossary is being created, and the translation is being done in batches. I also want to stress that we do the translations in batches here. If we once again go back to our friend SmartCat and we open up any random documents, I want to stress this so you can appreciate the difference. So these are short documents only, and I don't want to share too much confidential information here. Let me just scroll through it quickly. As this is loaded, okay, we can stay on this side as this page, as there's nothing too personal here. You can see that SmartCat makes these translations basically on a sentence by sentence basis. So there is no consistency within the segments either, apart from them being maybe repeated. But what the traditional translation, machine translation does is just translate each sentence individually without context. Whereas here, not only have we given the system the necessary context, but it also translates the whole document together in batches. So it makes more sense in the terms of the logic and the context. Okay, so we've got this screen here that I showed last time, which is basically the quick export screen. If we wanted to, we could just open and get a PDF straight from here, but as we are going deep here with translation memories and other stuff, we want to go into the full screen editor, which you can do by either clicking the expand icon or clicking on the big button here that says open full screen editor, making it even easier for you. In our full screen editor, I've shown you the main features last time. We have got a cheat sheet here, which is the first thing you should probably learn is all the keyboard shortcuts. And once you have the keyboard shortcuts, you can just collapse here the labels and make it a really tight, small and beautiful toolbar. Then we have some extras. For example, there's going to be more extras coming for sure. There's going to be more different fun little modes and useful little things. We're going to have periodic eye reminders. We might even get one during this video where it'll tell you to look away for a few seconds every 20 to 30 minutes, which is really nice when you're looking at the screen for a long time. Okay, but let's expand it again so that you can see exactly what's going on here. We already talked about the basic features of the editor last time, so let us focus today on the archive features. Archive is what we call a translation memory. We just feel we want to rename certain staples from the translation industry because we are now in a different era and things need to be simplified a little bit. We have this button here. It says highlight reused, don't highlight. If we choose don't highlight, the whole text will just appear as a normal document. If we choose highlight reused, we will see color-coded green, which is fully reused, like 100% matches in traditional translation speak. We can have yellow features, a yellow underline, which is for segments that are partially reused. And this is a big revelation from our software. So if we look at, for example, here where it says company registration number, this is the typical segment that, Trados can kind of sometimes fix it, SmartCat can't, Phrase can sometimes fix it. So we've got but here we do it in a lot more intuitive way. So we have a segment that's called company registration number. These are fake, by the way. Okay, so company registration number, and you can see the segment is yellow. Why is it yellow? Because we have this text already in the memory, but the number is different. So what it's done already, your work has been done for you because the segment has been already adapted. So it's taken the words company registration number from the memory and it's changed the number for you, which is very useful and really saves us some work. If we were to look up here, we can click on lookup or Control Shift and K. It'd be really useful for you to learn those shortcuts pretty quickly. It says company registration number, and if we wanted to know that from the translation archive, so our TM, we can also use Control Shift and A, which will open our archive search, and we can see 20 results with this exact phrase already from our previous translations. Comes in this really nice sidebar, which you could also pin to the left if it's something you want to have open while you work. However, I want to remind you that these features are really what we call legacy features. So as the system gets more intelligent and learns your prompts, we will really not have to look up that much in our memories. Maybe don't even need the memories that much, but for documents that we have very often, like certificates or manuals that change only slightly, the translation memory or archive feature, as we call it, can still be very useful. Then we've got also an autocomplete features. If you started typing something like, let's see, I'm not sure if it will be coming up here, but if you started typing something like count, you can see how you get suggestions here for words that are exclusively from the translation memory, so it's not too confusing. So you would have, for example, company names that are specific to this project that will let you autocomplete by tabbing. You could choose something like, I don't know, maybe you say registration, okay, and you can see how that also helps, but it's completely optional, the autocomplete function here. So we have the highlighting system, which is color-coded, and let me once again show you that you can use different intensities here. Let me use the default here because then it will be easier to see in the video. So green are segments that are 100% taken from the translation memory, but our system also has the following instruction. If a translation absolutely seems wrong to you, do not reuse the entry from that translation memory, which is also something that SmartCat won't do, or Charles won't do. They'll just throw something completely different in there, completely wrong, if there's an incorrect entry in the translation memory. But our system acts as the translator, not the translation memory or the machine translator. It acts as the actual translator, so it does your job. So when it sees something that absolutely doesn't seem like it can be true, doesn't matter that it's like that in the translation memory, it will not use that term, which is obviously very helpful as we run through this quickly. Okay, now what we can also do is we can just hide those, which in the layout view may be a little bit strange, but we can hide the fully reused ones, which means that we now have only the yellow and the white. So the white is segments that have never come up before in translation, and the yellow ones are the ones that the computers adapted for us. So we have this sentence here that says, we, the undersigned, acting on behalf of the bank, confirm that this and that company, we made that one up. As you can see here, Main Street, that's obviously not the name. Suti Fresh Market is obviously not the name. We made that up. Okay, so what is done is this sentence has come up in several translations. However, the company name is invented, and the registration numbers are invented. But instead of us having to, if we went back to, for example, Trados, if we had something like this date of appointment, and then we have this will be a 75% match, because we've had the word date of appointment before, but the date is different. So it just seemed to us to be very 1990s to have to go in and mix and match between AI and translation memory and machine translation and see what happens there and change the little numbers. That's all being done for you now, as it really should in 2026. Okay, so the yellow ones are segments that more or less you can trust, not quite blindly, but you can. I think it depends on the quality of the memory and the text and your instructions and your prompts, but basically you can trust it. It'll just have used your sentence from before, and it'll have made the changes to account for different names, or maybe some part of the sentence that's been left out, or something like that. We can also, if you like the old-fashioned way, go into the segment view now, where we have more of a classic SmartCat view. I want to also stress this. So we have here, even though we've hidden the fully reused 100% matches, we've still got some green here. Why is this? Well, this is because we previously edited this segment. So whenever you edit a segment, and that basically means you've approved it. So we don't have a system here where you have to control and enter to confirm every single segment, as we believe that 2026 it's just an affront to translators to have to go through segments and manually confirm instead of concentrating on the things that are actually important for you to do. So why does it turn green? That just means you've looked at it and you've edited it. So if we have, for example, it says account opening date 17 March 2025. If we change that, you see how it turns green. That means that we've edited this already, so that is then equivalent to a full match because we don't have to look at it anymore. Okay, let's bring back the matches, by the way, highlight it in green, and we can see that this document is already almost completely done for us. Okay, we have the usual suspects here to edit, so we can, if we wanted to use the name from the left, we could use the copy source to target function, which also has a shortcut, or we could do that here again. Yeah, copy source to target, and then that works even if you're in the layout view. So when you're in layout view, you don't actually see the segments side by side, but you still know which ones they are. So you can even here, you can copy source to target, and it'll take the sentence from the left and put it on the right, just as it should, unless it's always worked, right? What else do I want to show you about this? We've got archive search, like I said. We've got autocomplete that was switched off. Most people probably switch off, but it might be useful for some people. And then I wanted to show you also the repetitions function. Okay, repetitions now. Here we'll have this purple underline here, and we have two options. We have ask on edit, or we have auto apply to all. If we ask on edit, it'll ask us to confirm whether we want to reuse the segment and propagate it to its similar segment. And if we have the, so it'll show us propagate to identical segment, but we've also made it so you can tab through those and you can just click enter if you're in agreement really quickly. However, we want to put that back because we don't want to corrupt our memories. If I've now put the period back here and I choose, okay, I had to do that before, right? You choose only that one and propagate to all. Okay. If I'm in the other mode, auto apply to all, then we could also hide here perhaps the translation memory matches, so we can concentrate on these here, which are the repetitions. You can see how those two are repeated, and if I change one and I'm in the auto apply, then it'll automatically, as I navigate away, it'll change it really quickly, as you can see, also propagate to the other segments, and all this is made just a bunch easier than it used to be with other apps perhaps. Okay, on the left then you have, let me bring back the translation matches, highlight reused, and you have some letters for the alphabet. Also, if you perhaps are not so good with colors, you can use those letters. So F is fully reused and P is partially reused and adapted to fit your new text. And for repetitions, you can also see the repetition count. So this bank name, for example, the name of MBH Bank has been used 3 times here in this document, and then perhaps if you look into that, you can also see that it's worth looking into that or changing that if you so wish. What else can I show you while we're here? I've basically shown you now the translation memory tools. As you then export your document and save it, your translation memory, your archive, Suti archive as we call them, will automatically be updated with the new information without you having to maintain TMX or whatever, XLIF files and all that stuff. We don't have that anymore. Let me just repeat from last time a few useful features. So we have the make changes, which is an AI changes function. You can just type something in here. You could say, I don't know, you could do something silly perhaps to show you, so change the word bank to I don't know, purse. Okay, and then it'll work on that. It'll run through the document and make all these changes for you. I just might want to make sure I don't confirm or export my document afterwards, or it might actually save the segments like this. Okay, so it says purse instead of bank everywhere. Let us change it back again. Change the word. Or we could of course do also for a simple change, we could do just a find and replace. We could say purse. Actually, I want to change it back to, if I'm not completely crazy, change it back to bank, and then takes a split second, and it's done. Okay. We do have a save button, so we want to click that every now and then. I don't have automatic saving just now, but it'll be in the product very soon. So, but I still want to show you. So make changes. Look up as I showed you before. You just mark something on the left or on the right, and you look that up. Best with the keyboard shortcut also, and you will see the result here on the left. Then we have the Smart Find, which can help you with the reviewing process, and it also has for you Smart Find that you have, for example, saved before. So we have one Smart Find that's really good. All personal information critical for a job application, phone numbers and street names and proper names. Okay, that's not for this document. That'd be really cool for a CV or recommendation letter like we had last time. This is a good one. All company names, people's names, dates, monetary amounts and addresses. Okay, that would make sense to make sure that that's all correct in the document. So we just run a quick search and it'll highlight for us all of these elements. This is probably best in the layout view actually, and you can see how that just carries over very nicely. And if we could, for example, remove the other highlighting and then we have it very clear, you can see how both on the left or on the right, depending on the toggle here that shows original, you can then check the important parts of the document. And let's be honest here, I mean, there are documents where this is the only thing that we really need to do. If it's something like bank account confirmation, we just want to make sure we don't really care about the style of the text. We don't really care about some maybe legal notices that could be on the page 2 of the bank statements. We just want to make sure our client gets this. There's nothing wrong with it, nothing screaming that we've not done a good job. So this helps us so much. Just say, okay, let me just check, are all the addresses correct, all the bank accounts. So you can be literal and explicit and say company names, people names, dates, monetary amounts and addresses. Or you could be more kind of general. You could say everything that may cause problems when applying for a loan. And then we'll have to do probably some more thinking before it comes back with the appropriate highlighting, and it'll show you what will probably cause problems here, though that's of course, here it's chosen a few things, but that's of course open to interpretation what really is important here. If there is this one review step that you want to do every single time, you just pin that and then it'll be automatically pinned, just like all the other prompts throughout the app. It'll be automatically pinned to you, and you can also prepare those when you have a day that's a little bit quieter perhaps, and just say, I'm going to copy over all the instructions I got from my clients that I've had for many years. I'm going to copy them all over into Suti. You could say here we've got a few company names, monetary amounts, addresses, persons' names. Or you could do also the following. If, for example, you were afraid that there were some things untranslated, or you could do, let's just clear it here, what you could do is to say all the Hungarian words, and then you would get highlighted everything that's still in Hungarian in the target document. Or of course you're now highlighting the whole documents on the left, but if I detoggle that toggle, you can see now we're left with only the words that are either Romanian city names, place names, or anything else that's still in Romanian. It's a really good check if you think you might have been a bit sloppy and left some text in the original language, but really your imagination is your limit here, and that is just what we have for review. And then make sure to always run with Control Shift and Q the QA robot, which will analyze your translation, and it will tell you when you forgot to translate something, when you've got maybe a monetary amount in the wrong format, you have a comma instead of a period, that kind of stuff, or the source and the original are identical. You get the drift. It's just a QA tool. We call it the QA robot, and it's really helpful. It'll allow you to accept a fix and automatically insert it if it thinks that something could be done in a better way. And we've also not made it in any way annoying, so if you think these are not justified, you don't get a big error message or anything. You just click it away. But if you wanted to look at it here and have it permanently pinned, you could do that. Or you could run it again if you've made a few changes and you just wanted another opinion and a second opinion from the QA robot. Then the robot will do its work again for you if you ask it to. Okay, so great. If you, for example, you could run AI changes with make changes, and then you could run the QA robot again. We can toggle the full screen here. And what's really useful sometimes is when you run one document, you just go back into the expand section, the upload sections, and you just swap that out for a new one, and then you've got all the other prompts exactly the same way that they were. But let's now hide this section, and this is basically it. I wanted to show you once again the add to file name function, which is also in this overview page. If, for example, our translation company or if it's our custom to write, for example, en, a space and then en, and you can say reviewed, and then you can change the file name right here, and then you can even download it as a PDF straight away from here, which is just so nice. So we're saving you the typical work of renaming and then exporting as doc and then exporting as PDF. As a disclaimer, of course, for the professionals who know what I'm talking about, we have OpenOffice actually installed on our servers, which is what creates the PDF file. So if you are extremely finicky about this and want it done just the way you want it, it's still the better way is to export it to perhaps Microsoft Word and do it from there. But sometimes the PDF here will also be good enough for you. Most of the times I think it'll be good enough for you. Next time I will show you the sharing flow in Suti, which is when you click on share here. We also have made it super easy for you. Just pick a collaborator name, say John, and then generate a link, and then you just copy that link and you can send it to any colleague. It doesn't matter if they have Suti or if they don't. If they then open the link on their computers, they'll be asked to create an account in Suti, and any work that they do for you will actually not count towards their own Suti quota, but only towards your Suti quota. So when you send collaboration links to colleagues, they don't even have to have a paid Suti account to be able to work on this. We will give you a number of translations for free, and after that the pricing is 30 euros per month, and there will also be, you get 60 documents per month, and there will also be a pro tier for more than that, for a larger number of documents. Yeah. On the dashboard, then, if you've sent a few things, I don't know if I've done this here. Yeah, if you sent a few things for collaboration, but we'll look into that next time, you then have an activity field here, which will show you who is the person that worked on your translation, your collaborator, whatever. How much time did they spend on a translation? How many changes did they make manually? Did they do lookup of terms? And if they ran the QA robot or not? And then that will really allow you to check how well the original work was done. You can also then open the documents from here and check if everything is correct and download them from here. This is the end of this video, which I've recorded to show you the translation memory flow in Suti, and I hope you can find it useful as you get to try the system yourself. Thanks for watching, and we'll be talking in the next video about a few details that we have in our editor that we think you really like. Alright, thanks for watching again, and see you in the next one.